This is the weekly review for the week of May 8th to May 12th, as well as this week's Sunday preparation. So, coming into the week, initially I was bullish, but then I switched my bias to a neutral stance. So, the reason why I was bullish is because we had this previous week's low SMT, and Friday gave us this displacement up, and I was looking for previous week's high to be targeted and to make the low of the week during CPI inside this confluence of PD arrays, the order block here, and the breaker, inversion, fair value gap, balance price range, etc. So there was a lot of confluence in this area, and I thought we could make the low of the week here and go higher. But, and that's why I have this um, theoretical trade setup here. But I wanted to see bullish price action on lower time frames to take an entry and not just blindly take this entry. So when looking at the daily chart, though, the parent of the H4 chart, we're still in consolidation. And even though we did take sell side liquidity here with SMT, prior to that we took buy side. And we're just stuck in the middle of this dealing range here. So this is low probability conditions, and swing trades like the one I initially had set up here are probably not going to play out. Only very short-term scalps are going to play out. So that's why I ended up switching my bias to neutral for this week. So throughout the week, the 9:30 to 10:10 window did give some good setups here. So Monday, as usual, I was anticipating consolidation because it's a Monday, but also because we had CPI news um, on Wednesday, and typically the market can consolidate 1 to 2 days prior to CPI news. So 9:30 gave us a very shallow, low time frame raid here on the 1 minute. I think we were below the 8:30 price. We broke down, came up into this M1, M2 fair value gap here, respected the mean threshold in terms of the closing or the closure of the bodies. Also, the fair value gap was in premium, and we RTO'd and went down to the bottom of the new week opening gap. And then the second setup that I noted was a continuation setup where we came back up into premium of the new displacement range, hit this volume imbalance and multiple time frame inefficiency, and came down to take the Asian low. Um, I do like this setup here. I think this one was more high probability because we have that new week opening gap kind of closure as a target. Where here on this setup, we already closed that new week opening gap. But this could also be used for confluence because we broke below it and then came back up and retested that new week opening gap with these PD arrays inside it. And that was really it for Monday. Nothing in the last hour of trading. We really just got consolidation for the rest of the day. This big manipulation move here, taking out the consolidation low. But that was pretty much it. So just a scalping environment. And that's really how it was for most of the week. Just the AM session gave, um, the early AM session gave setups. So coming into Tuesday, Tuesday still had the same consolidation bias, and we had a couple SMTs here. So, let's see, yeah, AM session was just, or early London session was just coming down, and we had this fair value gap up in here, and then 9:30 gave the displacement higher after taking out sell side here, and we also had a SMT with previous day's low. And we broke structure, came back down to fair value gap here, also an inversion fair value gap, and also the breaker, the top of the breaker up here. And that gave a five handle opportunity in the 9:30 to 10:10 window, coming up to take this buy side and finish filling in this M15 fair value gap, or sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. And that was pretty much it for Monday or Tuesday that I saw. You see, Tuesday's all consolidation because Wednesday is going to be that CPI news event. And despite giving volatility on CPI, it's obviously still didn't give us any direction for the week. So CPI was actually very tricky because we were stuck between two raids. So let's see, we had these equal highs up here. That high, and prior to CPI, probably could go to the hourly to show the breaker. We had a previous day low SMT here, and this is the hourly breaker. Took previous day's low with YM SMT, and then CPI displaced higher. So we were having, displacement after a raid. So initially I was looking to see if I could just buy the hourly breaker if we had some type of lower time frame bullish price action here. But then we raided those equal highs up in here. So now we were stuck between two raids, a bullish one and a bearish one. And we also had a bearish SMT with previous week's high. And both bullish and bearish SMTs continued on the lower time frames. So we had this low time frame SMT here with that high and that high. We had a failure swing. It came back up into this bearish order block just at the 9:30 open and then displaced down, and we created this potential inversion fair value gap. But here we came into the hourly breaker, had a bullish SMT with YM. YM took the 8:30 lows, also had this low time frame SMT with NQ, and we took out low time frame sell side and created this breaker, right? So to me, this was printing both bullish and bearish price action. Now I did note this trade here just within the 9:30 to 10:10 window, and this was after, this was not live, this was after the fact, but I was thinking that you could use the logic to take a scalp here, anticipating the RTO to this breaker. But I feel that it was not as high probability because we already hit this hourly breaker and we could have easily just continued straight up. But this one here, this M1 entry here, this was the silver bullet trade that ICT noted. And I do feel that now looking back at it, I think this was probably the most high probability trade of the day, because we came up here, hit the order block, new SMT, and then here we broke through this breaker. So we violated the breaker here. So that should have been a signal that we're violating bullish PD arrays. And at the same time, the dollar index was respecting bullish PD arrays. So this was 10 a.m., 10:15, right? Dollar index came back down into a bullish order block and was respecting this fair value gap in here. See, the body closures were respecting the low of this, or the high of this candle, the low of the fair value gap. And we had this low resistance liquidity run up in here. So dollar index was bullish at the time. And here at 10:20, we violate this breaker. So even if you had a limit here, you could have seen this, got violated, got out at break even, and then switched short inside this M1 fair value gap to target these relative equal lows for a partial, and then potentially these relative equal lows for another partial. So I could kind of see how this trade was the silver bullet for today, but overall it was a very, very tricky day with all of these SMTs and price initially respecting both bullish and bearish arrays. But yeah, this was the most high probability trade of Wednesday. Then I believe that was it for Wednesday. Yeah. So coming into Thursday, I saw how we were still around the new week opening gap. So I said that the rest of the week was going to be a consolidation profile, because if it's Thursday morning or Wednesday night and we're still around that new week opening gap, it's highly likely we're going to just stay in consolidation for the rest of the week. So coming into the 9:30 open, I was anticipating long setups because I saw we had this breaker here, SMT, and I was seeing if we could have a low time frame long setup to trade back up into the new week opening gap. Nothing printed long, so there wasn't any way you could have gotten confused, but price did keep printing bearish SMTs and respecting bearish arrays. So I feel like I was too kind of set in that bias of trying to look for a long setup when price was violating these bullish arrays here. So even on M1, we broke through that breaker and fair value gap, had this very low time frame rate, and gave a setup here that offered 5 handles, or the 1.3R down into the sell side here. But yeah, I didn't take this live because I was looking for bullish price action, but none of that printed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Then in the PM session, I did take a trade where I still had that same bias of price trading up into the new week opening gap, and we did print bullish price action here where we respected this imbalance, took sell side, broke market structure, and we had this breaker here and multiple time frame inefficiency right in here. So I took a long setup in the last hour of trading because we took sell side here, and I was anticipating buy side to be delivered and price to trade up into the new week opening gap, but we ended up just consolidating, and then just before 4 I cut the trade at break even, and then after 4 p.m. we ended up hitting take profit. So yeah, that sucked, but it is what it is. Um, then going into Friday, Friday for me was also pretty tricky because initially I saw this short setup here and I was going to take it, but we had high impact news at 10 a.m. So I didn't want to kind of gamble with that, but the setup did end up playing out um, after we took this low time frame sell side here. And pretty much the rest of the day, we ended up respecting M5 arrays all the way down. But I didn't really know what to target down here. So I was really just waiting to see if we printed something bullish to trade back up into the new week opening gap, which never really happened. Um, but I just didn't feel comfortable blindly shorting these M5 fair value gaps because I didn't know what the drawn liquidity was. We did end up taking previous day's low, but I wasn't sure of that live, so I really just stayed out um, for pretty much all of Friday. Um, I did like the 9:30 trade, and I would have taken that if we didn't have that high impact news just around the corner at 10 a.m. But yeah, overall, nice short-term scalps during the 9:30 to 10:10 window, but still, it's overall a very difficult read for price, and that's really the same thing going into this next week. Um, I mean, if we just look from Monday to Friday, like we literally did not do anything. Um, the only bias that I have is from dollar index, and because the seasonal tendency on dollar index is bullish for May, I think that we're seeing the quarterly shift happen here. And I marked out the previous 20, 40, and 60-day highs. So we have this SMT here with GU and EU building up sell side here. Um, Potentially, this could be building up sell side to be taken in the bearish seasonal tendency from kind of July to September or August. But as of now, May and kind of into June and early July is bullish. So we're in this dealing range and we're having that displacement up here. So that's what makes me bullish on dollar, which is obviously going to make me bearish on ES. But looking at the ES chart itself, I have no idea. Um, we could be bearish or we could still stay in consolidation. So there's really not much that I see here to prep for next week. I think next week is going to be just scalps, um, the same as this week. We do have good news. There's nothing crazy. Good high impact news events throughout the week and medium impact news events. But as I said, there's nothing really you could discern from this type of price action. Um, but yeah, we'll see what ends up playing out during the week. Um, I am favoring lower ES just because I want dollar to go higher, but we'll see what ES ends up printing. But yeah.